What would you do if one unexpected offer could change your entire life overnight? I thought I had seen it all: long nights, quiet homes, and the fragile line between life and loss. But nothing prepared me for what happened inside that house, and the woman who made a choice that defied everything I believed in. She was 46. Married. Untouchable. And what she offered me was something no one ever should. This isn't just a story about temptation. It's about secrets, silence, and the kind of decision that stays with you forever. Stay with me till the end, because what happened next will leave you questioning everything. I never intended to become part of something complicated. At the time, my world was small, predictable, safe. I had taken the job out of necessity, not ambition. Caregiving wasn't something I had trained for, but life has a way of pushing you into roles you never imagined. The house sat at the edge of a quiet neighborhood, the kind where nothing seemed to change and time moved slower than usual. That was where I met her. She was 46, though she carried herself with a grace that blurred age entirely. Her name, at least the one she gave me, wasn't important. What mattered was the way she watched people, carefully, almost like she was always calculating something beneath the surface. Her husband was my patient. A man confined mostly to a bed, his health failing in ways that made the house feel heavy. He spoke little, needed constant attention, and slept more often than he was awake. My job was simple: assist, monitor, and make sure nothing went wrong. But nothing in that house was ever truly simple. She was always there, quiet, composed, present in ways that felt intentional. She would linger longer than necessary, watching as I worked, asking small questions that didn't seem important at first. "How long have you been doing this? Do you live nearby? Do you ever feel lonely in this kind of work?" At first, I answered politely. Briefly. But over time, I began to notice something. She wasn't just asking questions. She was studying me. There was a distance between her and her husband that couldn't be explained by illness alone. It was in the way she stood near him but never touched him unless necessary. In the way her voice softened for me, but remained flat when she spoke to him. And then there were the silences. Long, lingering silences where she would sit across the room, watching me instead of the man she had built a life with. It made me uneasy. But I stayed. Because I needed the job. Because the money was good. Because, if I'm being honest, part of me was curious. The shift came slowly. It always does. One evening, as the rain tapped softly against the windows, she brought me a cup of tea. It wasn't unusual, she did that sometimes, but this time she didn't leave. She sat down. Close. Closer than before. "You're different," she said quietly. I didn't respond at first. I wasn't sure what she meant, or what kind of answer she expected. "Most people don't last long here," she continued. "They get uncomfortable, or they start asking questions." I let out a small breath. "And I haven't?" She smiled faintly. "No," she said. "You haven't." That should have been my first warning. But I ignored it. Because I didn't yet understand what she was really saying. There's a certain kind of tension that doesn't announce itself. It builds quietly, like pressure beneath the surface, until one day you realize something has shifted, and there's no clear way back. That's what it felt like with her. Days turned into weeks, and the routine settled into something almost comfortable. I knew the rhythm of the house, the timing of medications, the subtle changes in her husband's condition. But more than that, I began to understand her. Or at least, I thought I did. She started spending more time with me during my shifts. Not in an obvious way, nothing that would raise suspicion, but enough that it became noticeable. She would sit nearby while I worked, sometimes reading, sometimes doing nothing at all. And when we spoke, the conversations began to drift away from safe topics. She told me things. Not everything, but enough. About how her life had become something she no longer recognized. About how loneliness could exist even in a shared home. About how silence could feel louder than words. "You ever feel trapped?" she asked me once. I hesitated. "Sometimes," I admitted. She nodded slowly, as if that answer meant more than it should have. "Most people don't admit that," she said. "I'm not most people." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and something in her expression changed. That was the moment I should have pulled back. But I didn't. Because by then, the lines had already begun to blur. It wasn't anything obvious at first. Just small things. The way her hand would brush mine when passing something. The way she stood just a little too close. The way her voice softened when it was just the two of us. And then one night, everything changed. Her husband had fallen into a deep sleep, the kind that lasted for hours. The house was quiet, almost unnaturally so. I was in the kitchen, going over notes, when she walked in. There was something different about her. I noticed it immediately. Not in what she wore. Not in how she moved. But in the way she looked at me. "You work too hard," she said softly. "It's my job." She stepped closer. "Is that all it is?" I didn't answer. Because suddenly, I wasn't sure. She stopped just in front of me, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her presence. "You've been here long enough," she continued. "You see things, you understand things most people wouldn't." My chest tightened slightly. "I don't know what you mean." Her lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. "I think you do." There was a pause. A long one. And then she said it. Not directly. Not clearly. But enough that I understood. "I could make this easier for you," she murmured. "For both of us." That was the moment. The moment where everything shifted. Because I knew, whatever she was offering, it wasn't something I could pretend not to understand. I didn't answer her right away. Not because I didn't understand, but because I understood too well. There are moments in life where silence says more than words ever could. That night, the silence between us was thick, almost suffocating. "What do you mean?" I finally asked, even though part of me didn't want to hear her say it out loud. She tilted her head slightly, studying me like she had done so many times before. "You're careful," she said. "That's why I chose you." "Chose me for what?" She took a slow step closer, her voice lowering. "For something more than just this job." My heartbeat shifted. Not faster. Just heavier. There was something dangerous in the air now. Something that couldn't be undone. "I take care of my husband," I said, trying to ground the moment. "That's all." She smiled again, but this time there was something behind it. Something deliberate. "Is it?" Another step closer. "You stay late even when you don't have to," she continued. "You notice things. Things others ignore." Her voice softened. "And you don't judge." That last part lingered. Because she was right. I didn't judge. Not yet. "What exactly are you asking?" I said. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached past me, setting something down on the counter. A simple gesture, but her hand lingered just long enough to make it feel intentional. "I'm offering you something," she said quietly. "Something that could change everything for both of us." I exhaled slowly. "And if I say no?" She met my eyes. "Then nothing changes," she said. "You keep your job. I keep my life. And we both pretend this conversation never happened." A pause. "But if you say yes?" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Because by then, I already knew. This wasn't about money. It wasn't about convenience. It was about crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed. And the worst part? A part of me was already standing on the edge. I wish I could say I walked away. That I chose the safe path. The right path. But life isn't always that simple. And neither am I. The days that followed were different. We didn't talk about that night directly. Not at first. But something had shifted between us, something that couldn't be ignored. The tension was no longer subtle. It was present in every glance, every word, every moment we found ourselves alone. And eventually, silence wasn't enough anymore. "You've been avoiding me," she said one afternoon. "I've been working." "That's not the same thing." I sighed, setting aside what I was doing. "What do you want me to say?" "The truth." I looked at her, really looked this time. "You're asking me to cross a line," I said. Her expression didn't change. "Yes." "And you're okay with that?" She held my gaze without hesitation. I wouldn't have asked if I wasn't. There it was. No more ambiguity. No more pretending. Just truth. Raw and undeniable. "You're not worried?" I asked. "About what happens after?" She stepped closer again, her voice steady. "Are you?" I didn't answer. Because I didn't have one. And maybe that was the problem. Or maybe, that was the answer. It didn't happen all at once. There was no single moment you could point to and say, that's where everything changed. It was gradual. A series of small decisions that led to something bigger. Something irreversible. We became careful. Calculated. The kind of careful that only comes from knowing exactly what you stand to lose. Her husband never knew. Not once. And that was the most unsettling part. Because life continued as if nothing had changed. But everything had. "You ever regret it?" I asked her once. She thought about it for a long moment. "No," she said finally. "Why not?" She looked at me with that same quiet intensity she always had. Because for the first time in a long time, I felt alive. That answer stayed with me. Even now. Especially now. Because the truth is, I never told anyone about what happened in that house. Not until this moment. And even now, I'm not telling you her name. Or where it happened. Because some secrets are meant to stay buried. Even if they changed everything. If this story made you pause, if it made you think, what would I have done? Then you're exactly where you need to be. This channel is filled with stories that dive deep into hidden lives, dangerous choices, and the truths people are too afraid to tell. Backhand index pointing right. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next story might be even darker, even more unforgettable. And before you go, tell me in the comments. Would you have walked away, or taken the offer? Disclaimer. This story is a work of fiction inspired by real-life situations. Names, characters, and events have been altered for storytelling purposes. This content is intended for mature audiences and is created for entertainment and educational purposes only.